A new week. We're starting now the last book of the semester, and we're going to finish the semester with an African novel. So, Things Fall Apart was written in 1959 by Chinua Achebe. And this author from Nigeria chooses to write the novel in English. Why? Because the dialects that are being used in Nigeria don't really have a written form, right? So it's really difficult for an author to make that decision and go to the language of the European colonizer in order to tell the story about something that is very cultural and very typical, a typical story in a Nigerian village in the 19th century, at the end of the 19th century. So it is not written in a very sophisticated and complicated language, as you could tell, or as you're about to tell when you will be starting the novel. The challenge is more as Western readers in what we understand in the cultural behaviors, right? So we follow the story of a main character, and some of his reactions, some of his emotions and behaviors don't really make sense to us as Westerner, right? And as you'll see, there's also a flip side. There's a second part of the book where things are going to not only fall apart, as the title indicates, but also change radically, right? And that is due to the contact with the West and the beginning of colonization. So when we think about Africa, we have a whole lot of different imaginary concept, right? And then when we start reading this novel, we realize that we really are very detached from this reality. First of all, in this novel, there's a lot of wisdom, right? And I think that's what the author is trying to convey to us, right? And kind of keep it in the space of a novel as a sacred heritage of his country, right? And literature also serves that purpose, right? To be a place where cultural proverbs or wisdom is being kept from time, from oblivion, right? So there's an effort to keep a memory of a culture in this novel. Second, you'll have to observe, and there will be an assignment about that, the amount of proverbs that are quoted at some point in the story, right? So I'd like to focus this week particularly on the idea of what is a proverb, and is it a good cultural heritage? Is it a productive wisdom, or does it actually limit our intelligence and wisdom, right? And of course, since we're focusing on the emotion, we will see here that one of the main issue in this book is how male characters are dealing with their emotions. And so far, we've seen other male characters, other female characters, and it's true that whether we're talking about African culture or Western cultures, there's always more pressure on males to not show their emotions, right? And this is very emphasized in this novel, in the main character, but not only him, but everybody around him, and especially in the relationship between the son, the actual son, right, and the adopted son. So pay particular attention to this idea of emotions when it comes to male characters, okay? And then next week we'll be focusing more on emotions in relation to the Western culture arriving in Nigeria and kind of the clash of the cultures. But that will be next week, okay? So the main challenge of reading this novel is not so much the language or how sophisticated it is. It's more the kind of estrangement that we feel with the characters and their reactions. All right? So enjoy the reading, and we will continue next week to discuss this novel.